Please welcome CEO 18 Foundation, Noa Tishby.
I was going to introduce you, but basically, I'm still going to do it here. So for the few of you that do not know, and even for those that you do know, it's also my honor to have my second Noah up here this afternoon. Noa Tishby is a two-time New York Times best-selling author. Noah served as the first special envoy for combating antisemitism and the illegitimization of Israel. In addition to that, Noah, in her spare time, has been a Emmy, Golden Globe, and Peabody nominated producer, and is certainly one of the most recognized figures on social media and traditional media with millions of views. So, Noah, as you stand and listen to that and saw Noa Agammani there,
yes,
let's
first of all, hi Richard, thank you so much for Milken Institute and everybody for having me. I just want to know Noah left the room, but I just want to get back to what we just saw, okay? We saw a young girl who went to a party. We saw the power of imagery in our collective unconscious, right? We saw how this particular image of this stunning young girl on a motorbike screaming in the most horrific of ways was etched in our memory in such a way that turned her, without anybody asking her, turned her into a symbol. And she now has to carry that burden of being that symbol of that day and talk to us and talk to everybody else. And she doesn't want this. She didn't ask for it. That's how powerful, first of all, that's how powerful imagery and storytelling is, right? And that's how powerful her strength is. And if she was here again, we'd be applauding her. But we just need to carry that with us when we think about this conflict and about all these people that have just fallen into becoming a symbol of this terrible day. So, oh my God, I feel very honored to have been in her presence.
So, for those who do not know this, Noah, too, is an Israeli. English is also your second language. Sure. You've been practicing longer, though.
Yes.
Noah served in the IDF. And Noah has been here and is using her immense talents and has continued to do that for probably the last, around 14 years to advocate for Israel. As I said, you have 2 New York Times best-selling books. The one most people, I'm sure, are familiar with is Israel, A Simple Guide to the Most Misunderstood Country on Earth. So today, as we sit here, in May of 2025, what is it that is still so misunderstood?
How much time do we have? Is the answer.
Basically.
Is the answer to that. So it's a great question, and that's the reason I named my first book, A Simple Guide to the Most Misunderstood Country on Earth, because I wanted this to be a conversation. Because is Israel the most misunderstood country on earth? No. Do you all know the governance system of Denmark? No. Nobody does. But the thing about that I wanted to point out is that Israel is the country that people know nothing about, yet that they're obsessing over it in a very disproportionate way. And that was something that I was able to identify when I moved to America as an actress, a producer, a writer. I was Israeli, and I started coming to America and talking to people, and I'm like, wow, you have no idea what Israel is, right? But you're very opinionated about it, which is a very interesting concept. And that was why I was able to identify this years ago as this extra juge, which isn't political, and it's not about policies, and it's not about politicians, it's about good old antisemitism, which we're going to get to later on. So there are a lot of things that are misunderstood about Israel. You can talk about the fact that people don't understand that the Jews have originated from, Judea. The Jews are indigenous to the state of Israel. They don't understand that Israel is literally a refugee state that was decolonized from Great Britain. So not only it's not a colonialist state, it was decolonized from England. They don't understand how liberal and progressive it is. They don't understand that there are 21% Arab, Israeli, Palestinian citizens that have equal rights within Israel. If you tell them that they don't understand that there's, again, I don't want to be offensive, but they don't understand that there's never been a Palestine. Not that there shouldn't be, but there just never has been. And when you say this to some certain people in the population, their mind just goes, like they don't even know how to process that, right? They don't understand the most basic stuff about Israel that is more true to the younger generation that get their information on social media, on TikTok, and worse. So a lot of things that people don't understand about Israel as a country, as I'm sure a lot of you know and have been frustrated by over and over again, which is why I wrote my first book, because I'm like, it's not really a book, it's an ammunition box. So just take it and use it, which a lot of people do, and it's great. But I think to this conversation with us, all of us that are, you're well versed in all of that. I think one of the most important things that people don't understand is that what's happening now is not Israel's problem. This is not Israel's problem. It's not the problem of the Jews. It's not even just the problem of the Middle East. What's happening right now is nothing short of a cultural conflict that if we don't wake up in the West to understand that that is what's happening, we're going to be screwed, and not too far down the line. So here's the thing. Israel is on the front line of a worldwide fight, right? It's a fight between liberal values, whether liberal democracies or whatever it is that we hold dear, things that we see as self-evident, human rights, women's rights, everything that the water we swim in, right? To us, it's very obvious that I'm equal to you. Like, where is the question there, right? When I moved here as a progressive Israeli, I was very surprised and disheartened to see that a lot of Americans don't understand the culture in the Middle East. And they superimpose what it is that they think of American culture into the Middle East, thinking that it's the same. And to an Israeli, right? And again, I'm going to say things here that I don't necessarily say out all the time in the open, but I feel like in this room, and I know it's broadcast, so it's whatever. We can handle it. So even for a very progressive Israeli, right? My family's from a kibbutz, like Israeli Air Force, and so on and so forth. If you're Israelis, you know what that means. It was very clear to me that some cultures don't just want the same things that we do. And that's something that's very difficult for progressive Americans to understand, okay? So knowing what the Middle East is, I understood that there's a bigger problem here, and that problem is called jihadism. That problem means that there are some mothers, okay, that are happy if their child goes and kills Noa Agammani's friends at a party. It's a good thing. It's a celebratory thing. And if their son gets killed doing that, that's a great thing to celebrate. That is a realization that we need to understand this in America, okay? We need to understand that that is the kind of culture that we're dealing with. And it's not a culture that can be appeased by land or by any, there's no two-state solution conversation happening around that culture. There is a Sharia law conversation that's happening around that culture that says that if a woman was raped, she needs to bring 3 male witnesses to prove that she was raped, and if she can, then she's the adulterer and she's going to get stoned, but she can also redeem herself by marrying her rapist. That's the kind of culture that we're dealing with. Now, here's the thing. I refuse to partake in people that are gaslighting you, saying that you're Islamophobic if you say that. I refuse. And I'll tell you why. Because the Middle East understands this better. You know who understands what I'm saying right now? Saudis, exactly. The Jordanians. Any country in the Middle East that outlawed the Muslim Brotherhood, that outlawed Al Jazeera to some extent, that understands that that culture is dangerous for them too. And there are a lot of countries in the Middle East that understand this. So, and that particular culture is also not interested in Israel. They're interested in Belfast and in Los Angeles and anywhere and everywhere. That's the mindset. So when you talk about what's misunderstood about Israel, yeah, obviously people don't understand anything about Israel, right? We know this. But if you zoom out of it, the bigger problem here is that we have not communicated properly to the masses that this is their problem too. And by doing that, we're leaving the progressives and the women and the LGBTQ plus community of the Arab world in the Middle East were leaving them out and hanging them out to dry. Okay? So that is the one thing that I want people to really get, and it's something that we need to take on as a educational, like super important thing to educate the public. There is an entire region that needs to be transformed. It needs to be transformed from the inside out. And sadly, right now, what we're seeing is that that particular culture has more fans and supporters on college campuses in America than it does in the Middle East. And that is something that is on each and every one of us.
So,
Thank you.
so you're talking about education.
I'm a little passionate about this, just a little bit.
Basically,
Like,
later on you can tell us how you really feel.
yeah.
But you talk about college
The other
campuses.
day, somebody said I speak low. It was very surprising.
So you're talking about education, college campuses.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time on college campuses.
I do. I have for years.
So
Yeah.
what is your focus on college campuses? What is your concern about college campuses? And are they as bad as we would think by watching the encampments and all the demonstrations and the way they're reported in the media?
Again, it's a great question. So two ways to look at it that are important. Number one is the broad public in America hate the encampments, all right? So first of all, you can calm down. We can be, it's actually okay. It's actually better than we think. 71% of Americans, left, right, center, whatever, they are against these encampments. The American people intuitively understand that these are not positive people, that this is not a positive agenda, that there's something else at play here. They get it. They don't want it. They don't like it. It was very well embodied in the SNL sketch in which they're sitting and talking about it, and the parents of the college kids, and they go, oh my God, I'm so proud of my child, that they're standing up, and he goes, no, not my child, but no, not my child. They don't like it. So that's a very, very good thing. But here's the thing to understand. College campuses, what's happening right now on college campuses is tip of the iceberg of a worldwide war that has been waged against us for 30 years. And the college campuses in America have been strategy, not a goal, all right? So what is happening is that about 30 years ago, Israel's enemies understood that they can't take her down militarily. They can't. They understood correctly that they need to shift their strategy from military to geopolitical. And they aimed at college campuses because they wanted to go after the hearts and minds. I know, hope is here. We've been in the trenches for a long time, right? They realized that they need to transform the way that they fight this war over the hearts and minds of young American voters, all right? They created an entire strategy that is built on the same language as South Africa. So branding Israel an apartheid state, branding Israel a pariah state, and dismantling the state of Israel. And the strategy to do this was through college campuses. Now, I've been talking about this for 20 years. Right? Fighting over it, talking about it. The two organizations that are active on college campuses are AMP, which is American Muslims for Palestine, and SJP. SJP is the one that's on college campus, but it doesn't actually exist. There's no organization. It's not a 501c3. There's no group. There are no offices. There's no officer, nothing. Their biggest proponent is AMP, American Muslims for Palestine. That organization was funded, created, established by groups and people that are connected to groups that in 2011 were found to be supporting Hamas. Financial support. I testified in front of Congress 3 times about this. It's all out in the open. So that is an entire strategy that's been waged against not just Israel, but literally democratic values, right? So that's been going on for about 30 years. The Jewish establishment in the United States, the Israeli government, the Jewish community brushed it off. So when I was talking about this 15 years ago, people were like, it's college kids. Everybody's a radical on college campus. They'll grow out of it. That's what I was told. And I saw the strategy. What they did was basically, here's the thing. When a university passes an anti-BDS law, right? What does that mean? Like a BDS law, like they're supporting BDS. What does that actually mean? I'll help. Nothing is the answer. It doesn't mean anything, right? They're just like, we support BDS. That's great. it doesn't actually mean anything. A lot of it gets struck down, and it doesn't actually mean anything even if it passes. But what they've been doing for a very long time is training the population to think that voting against a democratic country is even a possibility. So if they voted against it on college campuses, it's okay to vote against it in City Hall. It's okay to vote against it in Congress. Does that make sense? So this is what happened on October 8th, not October 7th, October 8th, because there was the atrocities of October 7th and then the shock of the atrocities of October 8th with the demonstrations and all the hate that was coming out, burst what was actually being created against us for a very, very, very long time. They're supporting all of these entities and all these powers that we were talking about before in the Middle East. And that's what's going on. They need to be, all these organizations need to be outlawed. All of these names need to be exposed. And people need to understand that this is fundamentally anti-American, anti-West, and the Jews, as always, and Israel now, having turned into the Jew of the world. Did you get that? Israel turned into the Jew of the world, right? They used to say, it's fine, let's just get rid of the Jews and everything would be fine. Nobody can say that. But it's like, let's just get rid of Israel. Everything will be fine. That's what happened, right? We're just a pawn. There's a bigger picture here. There's a bigger game. Also, the word terrorism, I would refrain from using that because terrorism is not a goal in and of itself. Terrorism is a means to an end, and the goal is the thing that we need to talk about.
So before we turn this over to my dear friend Gleiniego to really talk about some of the more practical things Israel's going to have to face in rebuilding, let's go back to what you talked about a little bit earlier, and what word is used so much today, anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism. What do those terms actually mean? When someone says, I'm an anti-Zionist, but I'm not an anti-Semite. Okay, or I'm not against Israel. I'm just against everything it does. Right? So
I'm not against Israel. I'm just against its existence.
So.
It's not, So I'm just gonna, do it very quickly because again, we need to wrap up. So first of all, let's be clear: anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. They're one and the same. We're clear on that. Yes. Great. Thank you, Fred. So here's the thing. Anti-Semitism is not racism. So it's not racism because when you're racist towards somebody, you think that you're better than them. So they're below me. When you're anti-Semitic, it's a little bit of both. So you're punching down on somebody, but you're also punching up. So anti-Semitism is attributing to the Jews these mythological powers, and it's a shape-shifting conspiracy theory. So every few generations, it changes into something else. Sometimes it's racial, sometimes it's, religious-based, whatever. It turned into nation-based today, which attributes everything that's worse in society, where it used to be pinned on the Jews, now it's pinned on the Jewish state. So what are the worst things about society today? It's colonialism, it's racism, right? And it's white supremacy. And lo and behold, these are all the things that are pinned on Israel, which I can, break down very easily. So that's what happened, and that's what they're conflating. Anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism are one and the same. When people say to me, I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm just an anti-Zionist, I usually ask them which other countries they would like to dismantle. Because there's only one country in the world that her existence is being questioned. There's only one country in the world that gets attacked so severely and savagely on October 7th, but when it defends itself, people say, well, don't defend yourself that well. Just please pull back on the defending yourself a little bit. So Israel has the right to defend itself, but it doesn't have the right to win? Which other country are you debating? Does anybody debate the existence of Russia right now? Nobody said Russia did a bad thing, therefore Russia should not exist. That conversation doesn't exist. That conversation only exists when you are talking about the world's single Jewish state. And the problem with anti-Semitism being a shape-shifting conspiracy theory, that it's like the water you swim in. So people don't even see that. They just think that IDF and the Zionists are just the worst. So where they used to think that, they used to say, in the Christian kind of like the beginning of Christianity, blood libel, right? So the Jews are bloodthirsty and they indiscriminatorily slaughter Christian babies to use their blood. You take Jews out and you put IDF in. And the IDF is indiscriminatorily killing Palestinian children to use their blood. And they don't see that it's the same. That is what we need to educate the population about.
So look at, no, it's been great to actually hear somebody that can explain why they believe what they believe. Okay, appreciate that very much. You're speaking truth, but let's leave the people here before Glenn comes up here with some good feelings.
Oh yeah.
So
I'm actually very optimistic.
So
honestly.
So tell us
For real.
what.
They're like, really?
Tell us what makes you hopeful. Tell us what makes you hopeful
Oh
about
my
this
God!
subject.
I'm actually so I'm having been in this work for 20 years. I'm so happy that people are finally hearing it again. Hope and we have hope, right? So because it's been a very long time that people didn't get what's happening, and now that we understand what's happening, we can actually fight against it. What brings me hope and what gives me hope? A couple of things. First of all, think of the young generation in Israel that jumped into battle. Think of these young Jews, right? 18 years old, 21 years old, that literally went to defend all of us here and went to fight, right? Put that as juxtaposition to the same age college campus kids in America. It's mind-blowing. That generation in Israel is incredible, all right? That's number one. Number two, what brings me hope is the Jewish people. Because this, and I know this is a mixed room, so I'll take it for the non-Jews between us. Please educate everybody in your community about October 7th, about the hostages, about Israel. Read whatever you can. Just speak up, because every few generations, we need somebody to speak up on our behalf. So that's number one. And for the Jews in this room, just zoom out and look at history. This is not our first rodeo. When you look at history in the last thousands of years, the last 80 years were the anomaly. We thought it's over. People were complacent and comfortable. But actually, we know how to do this. We know how to fight. We know how to stand up. Every few generations, they're coming out to get us, and they can't. All the ones that have tried before, where are the Mamluks? Where are the Jebusites? Where are who are they? They're nowhere to be found. And we're still here. So I'll end with this, right? 1,000 years from now, 500 years from now, 2,000 years from now, we have no idea what borders are going to look like, what countries are going to look like, what the children of Ilhan Omar are going to be doing. We have no idea. But we do know one thing, and that is that even 1,000 years from now, Jewish women around the world are still going to be lighting Shabbat candles, because we've been doing this for thousands of years. And we're not going anywhere. That's what brings me hope.
Look it.